Watem here and welcome back to some more Higurashi When They Cry. Let us continue.
だから、両親が私の留守の間にデパートへ行ってしまうと、とてもへそを曲げたのを思い出しますわ。
高野さんの子供時代もとても素敵そうですね。
Until they died.
でも、私一人を残してデパートへ出かけて、二人ともバスの事故に巻き込まれて死んでしまいましたわ。その連絡が来るまで、私はずっと両親を恨んでて。今頃、デパートのレストランで私をのけ者にして美味しいものを食べてるに違いないって憤慨してて。あと一本で旗が確か20本になるはずで、20本が小さな目標だったので、それを達成する機会がまた遠のいたとずっとむくれていて、ひどい話ですわね。
It must have been horrible to lose her parents at the age when she was still interested in collecting flags from kids' meals. It's obviously still a painful memory for her.
そうですか。それは知りませんでした。ひょっとしてそれが医師を目指された動機ですか？
は？どうして？
ああ、いえ。私が医師を目指したのは自分の家族に関わることが理由だったので、てっきり高野さんもそうだったのかと。
No, she became a doctor because her adoptive grandfather was interested in Hinazawa syndrome.
私が医師免許を取ったのは、ひなみ沢症候群により近づくために必要だったからですわ。失礼な言い方をすれば、研究のためついでに取った免許ですわね。
How interesting. Even when she was still at medical school, she already knew about Hinazawa syndrome.
そういえば、こんな初歩のことも私は知りませんでしたが、高野さんはどこでひなみ沢症候群に触れられたのですか？高野先生の研究を掘り出すうちに発見されたというような話を聞いていますが、医大に通われていた頃に医師の勉強と並行してもう症候群の研究に入られていたとは驚きです。私など凡才でしたので、医師の勉強だけで精一杯でしたから尊敬しますよ。
Studying's annoying.
ひなみ沢症候群の研究に携わったのは、もっともっと前からですわね。
What does she mean? How old was she when she first found out about the syndrome? In fact, why did she become familiar with it at all?
私の実家は、さとこちゃんやりかちゃんたちと同じで親戚がいませんでしたの。それで施設に引き取られて。それがもう本当に劣悪な施設でして。
So, what does she think about honey? Remember how there was a flood of poor orphans back then? It wasn't a truly awful orphanage built solely to gather up those children and bring in government subsidies.
それを訴え出た時に助けてくれたのが、祖父、高野先生でしたの。
では、あなたは高野先生と生活なされていたのですか？なるほど。研究資料に若くして触れることができていたのも納得です。しかし、なぜそれを伏せられていたのですか？
まあ、大人の事情ですわ。風土病研究のために予算を求めるのと、死んだおじいちゃんの研究のために予算を求めるのでは、少々事情が変わってきますから。
なるほど。長いことの疑問が氷解しました。あなたが高野先生を語る時の尊敬の眼差しは、一研究者に対するものとしては説明できないものでしたので、しかしそこまで高野さんに尊敬させるとは、よほど人徳のある素晴らしい先生だったんでしょうね。
That's gonna make her happy.
人徳はどうだったでしょう。誰にも理解してもらえず、ずっと孤独に研究して、その祖父は 孤独を愛する悪い癖がありましたので、協力者を得られなかったんですわね。
でも、高野さんという優秀な助手がいたじゃないですか。そういえば、高野さんも先生も、読みは同じ高野ですね。
ええ。本当の名字じゃありません。祖父に敬意を表して同じ名を。本当は漢字も同じにしたいのですが、クライアントに説明するときに誤解されたくないと思い、読みだけを残して漢字を変えたんですわ。
So now Lydia knows the background. Now I could see the connection between their last two names. It also revealed the connection between first names, Hifumi and Mio too. She doesn't need to tell me anything more than that. She lost her parents when she was young, and Dr. Takano took her in and loved her as if she was his own child. To show her love and respect, she decided to call him her grandfather. Now I know. That's the reason why she's devoted herself to researching Hinazawa syndrome. I now understand how she must feel, knowing her research is soon to be terminated. Rika-chan had said that she was hurt. Though I didn't know anything about it, I may have said something to hurt her before. I only cared about treatment and extermination, and didn't care about anything else until today. She must have considered that blasphemous towards her grandfather. Now I know why she became aggressive every time I expressed how I felt. After she was told that her research would be terminated, she stayed up all night and gathered up lots of documents. She went to Tokyo and requested an extension without depending on anyone else, and that request was rejected. The documents she used are now in a box in the underground storage. She must have exerted a lot of effort to put them together. Even someone without any knowledge of our research could easily understand what she was trying to say. However, it looked like some of those documents weren't even opened, and had some marks that told me that they weren't treated the way documents are supposed to be. I'm sure some pages had absorbed her tears without me ever knowing. I heard from Tokyo that Takano-san had left a terrible impression with the board of directors. It's not easy to overturn a bad impression. In other words, she can never request an extension on her research ever again. I mean, beyond leaving a bad impression, it was already blind to it, but yeah. I was there when she found out about it. I was there when she found out she could no longer continue her grandfather's research, even though she must have promised him that she would complete it.
高野さんは入江機関閉鎖後にも個人研究を続けられますか？
入江機関が閉鎖するときには、症候群は撲滅されていますわ。病原体をシャーレに残し、誰かをさらって感染者にして研究しろと。個人で機材も予算も施設もなく、誰にも顧みられなかった祖父のようにホルマリンの匂いのこもった書斎で誰にも評価されず、ざれ言だと笑われるためだけに研究を続けろと。
Perhaps look for another pathogen like it.
もう若さもなく気力もなく、ただの負け犬に過ぎない私に何を続けろとおっしゃるんです。
Tomitaka-san once told me that the Irie Institute was supposed to be the Takano Institute. But our clients didn't like the idea of a young woman heading the facility. That's why I was invited. Who was it that said it? Tomitaka. That explains why she's been unfriendly since the day we met. It must have been blasphemy to her to see me go on about Hinazawa syndrome and decide on a research plan according to my values and morals. To Takano, the syndrome is her grandfather. She must feel his presence when she's researching it. That's the reason why she often stays at the Institute until late at night, though it makes mountain dogs annoyed, as they serve as security here.
蕎麦湯、お飲みになります？
あ、そうですね。いただきましょう。
Her shoulders look fragile to me for the first time, and now I'm sure of Rika-chan's story. Takano holds an indescribable sadness within her, and if someone approached her, pretending to understand. She just might fall for it. Because of my position, anything I say to her will only hurt her more, probably. Sometimes, words can harm people no matter how they're used. But the fact that I still spoke up showed how little experience I had in life.
せめて今後の予算配当を高野さんのやりたい研究に優遇しましょう。少なくとも3年の継続は勝ち取れたんです。その3年間で精一杯の。
It was all a slip. Even as I spoke, I started to regret trying to say anything.
お気持ちだけで結構ですわ。死の病にかかり、痩せ衰えていくのを3年も見守るのも辛いものですわよ。
If I remembered right, Dr. Takano came down with acute dementia and chose to commit suicide while his mind was still functional, out of despair at his inability to continue his research further. My verbal slip had made her remember a painful memory and hurt her even more.
最後には眠ったままになり、生命維持装置の電源を切ることをいつかは選ばされる。ねえ、入江所長。その電源を切るのを所長がその患者の担当医だったら誰にやらせますか？まさか所長がその電源を切ったりはしませんわよね。
Takano-san asked me that as if it was a normal question. She's only expecting to hear one answer.
もしそういう状況になるのなら、最後のスイッチは残されるご家族に委ねるでしょ
う。ですわよね。まさか今生の別れの日にその場に立ち会わないわけがない。私はひなみ沢症候群の最後に立ち会いますわよ。絶対にね。
Someone knocked on the door, and I heard the voice of one of the other staff members.
所長、午後の診療が始まります。
ですわよね。
準備をお願いいたします。
ああ、申し訳ありません。今参ります。
私が片付けておきますわ。所長は診療室へお急ぎくださいな。いつものお年寄りたちがよもやま話をしたくて大勢お待ちでしてよ。
Takano-san laughed, but I knew that laugh was trying to conceal her anguish. I'm not close to her personally, but she is my partner here at the clinic. I have been trying to avoid getting close to her, but maybe that was a mistake. If I had listened to her more, maybe I could have eased her pain a little. But it's too late. Toмотaka-san is conducting an investigation to prove her innocence. Is she guilty or not? Either way, her heartache remains. After Irie left, Takano sat down on the sofa again and stared at nothing for a while. Then she got up and picked up the phone on the desk.
高野です。おこのぎはいる？私よ。20日からのつもりだったけど、今日から R の周辺監視を開始して。え？別にいいでしょ？それとも今日は暑いから嫌だとでも言う気？ええ、お願い。決行日まであと5日。慎重に慎重を重ねても罰は当たらないわ。
So is that before or after the previous scene? I wonder.
ええ、よろしく。
Has Suka already gone missing?
失礼しますね。
Or are we going to find her as she goes to hide? Okanogi put down the phone and sighed. Although it's his job to do whatever Takano wants, he couldn't help but complain about getting such an order on such an extremely hot day. Of course, if he complained, Takano would spit back twice as much reproach. Okanogi was sitting in the office of Okanogi Gardeners, a dummy company. As it happened, they regularly did gardening in Himazara, if only so that nobody would get suspicious to see their uniforms and van around.
やれやれ、参ったな。ウグイスとヒバリの休暇を取り消して呼び戻せ。 R の監視を3日前倒しにしろと我らのお姫様のご命令だ。監視体制をすべて3日前倒しにする。初日は白鷺だったな。4名体制、通話監視1、サポート1、R タク監視1、サポート1。白鷺リーダーは直ちに指揮に入れ。あと電話設備工作も前倒しにするぞ。ウグイスの予定だったが招集には1日かかるだろう。大鳥でやる。大鳥7、工作チームを編成して今夜中に完了させろ。可能か？
もちろん。電気工作要員の訓練は十分です。
The Mountain Dogs are different from a regular battle unit. They're a technical squad, formed from specialists in different fields of espionage. They were covert operatives for sabotaging telephone stations, like Okanagi just ordered. Ones for wiretapping, intelligence gathering, information manipulation, establishing networks in public institutions, and many others in various specialized fields. They belong to the self-defense force. Some are from fire departments, some are from police departments, and some are civil engineers. Of course, they have some experts in combat as well. Okanagi is one of those combat experts, and he didn't expect too much from the engineers. While they had all gone through the same basic training, what they were capable of was child's play compared to what an expert can do. Okanagi is the leader of a unit made up mostly of members who can't even do 100 push-ups. Really, that was the only complaint he had. He'd rather have been put in charge of the Bloodhounds. But somehow, he became the leader of this strange unit, maybe because of his cautious yet courageous personality. Since combat was his expertise, Okanagi wished deeply for combat. During the kidnapping incident 5 years ago, the plan was for resisting criminals to leave the hostage behind on the scene and run after the police stormed in. He recalled the extremely frustrating memory of his combat with that plainclothes officer. That fat old man was acting so arrogantly, but he could have taken him within a matter of seconds. He could have just broken his neck. He could have turned him around. And snap! It would have been so easy for him. He remembered a young policeman too. He shot him in the shoulder, but he could have shot at his ear. He was told to go easy on them, so that was the best he could do. He thought of firing a second shot, but there just wasn't time, so the last shot he fired was that reluctant one. Okanagi couldn't believe that such a pathetic battle was his last combat job. Regardless, he had continued to train so that he was ready at any time. Now that the operation had begun, he was hoping there would be a battle for him to fight. Are we going to see Akasaka versus Okanagi at some point? He didn't even need to fire a shot. He didn't even need to punch anyone. All Okanagi wanted was a battle that satisfied his pride, nothing more.
はい、少々お待ちください。隊長、外線からお電話です。隊長宛てなのか、社長宛てなのかわかりません。
He's also the president of Okanagi Gardeners. Because of that, members of Mountain Dogs also often call him that.
ちょっと待て、生リンゴです。すったらんねえ。もうしよったねえ。ほんま、こんなんでどうよ。で、どちら様んね。
女性です。野村と名乗ってます。おこのぎ社長を指名してます。
隊長宛てだ。社長室でと。向こうに回してくれ。
Rattle, rattle, crash! I heard a noise which sounded like many buckets crashing down. It's probably a noise from one of Sadako-chan's traps. According to her trap map, anyone going near the wiretapping shack who set off the trap makes a loud noise. That must have been it just now. I scouted around the shack last night before the girls left. The shack is very secluded and is located in a blind spot where nobody is likely to go. So this noise means something important. It means they started their observation of Rika-chan. Can't let them notice the girls aren't home. We'll definitely call and come by to confirm they're here. We'll have to make sure they think the girls are sick in bed, and that they don't hear the phone or doorbell. The curtains are closed, so they can't see what's inside of the house. But to be certain, Their beds are stuffed to make it look like they're sleeping. However, I have to be even more careful from now on. Can't let them notice that I'm staying here. For that matter, I have to make sure I can act when something happens. The phone rang suddenly, just as I expected. They're calling to see if anyone's home. They already were aware of it. They didn't go to school, so they're probably assuming that they're home, sick in bed. I'm sure they want proof of that. The phone rang for a long time, which convinced me that it was indeed a call from the mountain dogs. If there was no answer on the phone, then the next step would be to come by the house. They'll pretend to be a mailman or a neighbour and knock on the door, but I don't even need to answer it. If the girls are too sick to answer the phone, they won't notice to knock on the door either. The increased hassle means a higher risk of discovery, but, on the other hand, it also proves our enemy is closing in on us. It was actually better for me, since I could measure the severity of the situation. Besides, Irie is our ally, and he already knows Rika-chan is somewhere else. He's supposed to tell them that she came by because he heard Rika-chan and Sadako-chan miss school, and that the two of them were in bed and should be left alone for a while. He's supposed to say that. They won't doubt Irie. They will believe him. You could call this an advanced level of mutual deceit. They believe that they're deceiving Irie, but in reality, Irie is deceiving them. However, they're professionals and we're a bunch of amateurs. Well, not me at least. Actually, maybe I'm not an exception. I don't know what they've got until I come face to face with them. Our conditions aren't even. We're leading by a tiny bit because we made the first move. Once that's gone, we don't stand a chance. I promised Rika-chan that I trust her unconditionally. So even without proof, I'm ready to fight. But I can't beat this conspiracy by myself. And to gain help from the others, Tomitake has to find proof. Tomitake is in charge of our first attack. That means he's in the most danger too. It's understandable that Rika-chan kept warning him to be very careful. He should have started his investigation as early as last night. That's the reason why they've begun observing Rika-chan. I can only pray for his safety and the success of the investigation. I heard a voice. Irie had arrived.
さとこちゃんにリカさん、ご主人様が会心に来ましたよ。
I heard footsteps coming up the stairs and a quiet knock.
大丈夫。私一人です。
もう少しここへに。この家はすでに敵の監視下にあります。
I let Irie in and closed the door quickly.
お疲れ様です。窓も満足に開けられないとあっては、まるで蒸し風呂ですね。これは差し入れです。
He handed me a plastic bag. It contained ice cream, cans of juice, some snacks, and even beer. Oh, this obviously isn't for Rika-chan. He was being a little careless, but I am grateful.
いかがですか、こちらは。
さっきこの家の電話を盗聴する監視小屋に何者かが近づいた形跡がありました。
I mean, you say that, but Rika is quite the wine connoisseur. Well, maybe. You know that she has one bottle of wine, but we don't know if she actually has more wine than that. Oh.
それから呼び出しの長すぎる電話が1件。おそらく学校を欠席したことを知り、在宅確認のために電話してきたのでしょう。あなたもリカちゃんたちの様子を見てこいと誰かに言われたのではありませんか。
ええ、まあ高野さんからリカさんたちが学校を欠席したのに病院に来ないから不安だと、様子を見てきてほしいと言われたんです。
It's totally pure intentions.
リカさんとさとこちゃんの欠席を不審に思われたんでしょうか。
いえ、多分富武さんが内定を開始したことと関係があるんじゃないかと思います。もしなかったとしても、今回の動きは彼にとって尻尾をつかむチャンスになるかもしれません。
どちらにせよ、もう何かが始まっているということなんですね。
そう見て間違いないでしょう。 私たちの敵が高野と山犬なのか、そうではないのか。どちらにしてももう敵は動き出しているのは間違いありません。
ひなみ沢村連続開始事件。最初の2年は偶然が重なっただけでした。しかし3年目から高野さんはそれを面白がり、綿流しの夜に何かが起こり続けることを期待しだしたように思います。
綿流しのお祭りはあさって。敵が動き始めるタイミングとしては妥当かもしれませんね。そして5年目にリカちゃんを狙う高野か。恐ろしい女です。
リカさんがしていた高野さんの話、あれはどれも本当だと思います。今日初めて知ったんですが、彼女はひなみ沢症候群の第一発見者、高野先生の養女だったんです。
同じ高野ですね。なるほど。
彼女にとってひなみ沢症候群の研究を受け継ぐことは尊敬する祖父との絆だったんです。その研究が打ち切られることが確定した。それは彼女にとって祖父を冒涜するものなんです。
すべてリカちゃんの言っていた通りということですね。
はい。それと高野さんがこんなことも言っていました。3年で打ち切られることが決まっている研究を寿命が幾ばくもない眠ったままの患者に例えるんです。そしてその生命維持装置のスイッチを切るならばそれは残された家族の権利だというようなことを。
どうせ打ち切られる研究ならば、それに幕を下ろすのは高野先生の遺族。
はい、そういう意味で言ったものと思います。
A gathering of the circumstantial evidence we need. Takano is, in fact, our enemy. Irie had been reluctant to accept it yesterday, but now he believes what Rika-chan said is true.
あとは富武さんに高野さんが企んでいる何らかの証拠を掴んでもらうだけです。そしたら関係者を一斉に拘束するための鎮圧部隊を呼び寄せるそうです。
高野は山犬なる特殊部隊を配下に持ちます。それを鎮圧できるような。
はい、私も名前しか知らないのですが、番犬という部隊がいるそうで、本当の非常事態が起こった時武力で強襲する戦闘部隊だとか。山犬はどちらかというと機密保持などの情報部隊の性格が強いので、多分それよりはるかに強い部隊なんでしょ
う。表に出せぬ研究をする機関の万が一の造反に対応する鎮圧部隊となれば、多分相当の強さを持つでしょう。つまりそのいわゆる番犬部隊とやらをひなみ沢に呼び寄せることが我々の勝利条件になる。
そういうことになるんでしょうか。ただ一つ不安なのは、緊急マニュアルには機密保持のために村を封殺することを認める記述があることです。番犬部隊が来てもやることは彼らと同じで、結局は村ごと証拠を隠滅するのではないかという不安も残ります。
いえ、それはないでしょう。敵の狙いが緊急マニュアルの執行にある以上、それでは何の意味もありません。この陰謀が派閥構想によるものならば、入江機関のクライアントたちの派閥は絶対に穏便に済まそうと思います。おそらく敵を吸収し、村人たちが何事かと目を白黒させているうちに決着させてしまうに違いありません。
I know this because I've done similar jobs myself. They'll pass through like a gale and complete their operation swiftly. A unit capable of pulling that off against the mountain dogs must be very powerful.
とにかく富武さんからの連絡を待つしかありませんね。
ええ、これは持久戦です。ですが一度有事となれば それは電撃戦に様変わりする。緩急の差の激しい辛い戦いになります。入江先生は敵の腹中にいる心強い存在ですが、常に油断せずにいてください。私たちはリカちゃんの味方になろうと決めた時点で、すでに彼らの敵なのですから。
Yes, beware of poison.
はい。
The poisoned coffee. The phone at this house is, of course, being wiretapped, so Irie has to come over to communicate with me. That won't work in an emergency. The telephone is still better in that case. For those instances, I've put together a memo for Irie. There's a method for communicating over the phone that's been bugged. It's something I came up with out of necessity once.
これは
緊急時用の私への電話連絡方法です。絶対に敵に奪われないでください。危険な時には必ず飲み込んで処分するように。
盗聴されているのに、どうやって電話で連絡を？あなたが受話器を取れば、たとえ無言であっても疑われかねないのに。
So basically you call, stop your call, call, stop your call in a certain pattern.
受話器を取らなくても連絡することはできます。少々コツのいる不便なやり方ですが、一番確かな連絡方法です。そして、それは敵の動きを最初に察知できるあなたにしか発することができない。
わかりました。
You're limited in the amount of information you can send across, but so because of that, each individual possible each information which you can send represents a lot of information. But then, because of that, it's very specific.
それで、やり方は？
メモに書いてあります。
Okay. Well, I think I will end it here for today. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know any feedback you have in the comments. Until next time, see you.